And live from the Scheinfeld Center Innovator Studio at Santa Barbara City College, it's the Enlightened Entrepreneur Podcast, where we inform and inspire Gen Z to become even more entrepreneurial and innovative in our global economy. I'm your host, Julie Sampson, Director of the Scheinfeld Center. And thank you, everybody, for joining us here to make livelihoods that matter, be your own boss, and make the world an even better place. In this episode today, we're celebrating Black History Month by exploring the connection between Black entrepreneurship and families historically, its current status, and new directions. This is relevant because Gen Z is on track to become the most diverse generation to date and the most entrepreneurial. And there are dynamics within entrepreneurship that affect everyone, including all marginalized groups. And awareness allows us to make more informed choices that help prosper individuals, families, and our communities. And so before we get into this, I just want to clarify that all entrepreneurs need resources of three types. Number one is they need entrepreneurial skills, mindset, and spirit. They need social capital, which is a well-connected personal and professional network, and they need financial capital, which is funding. The degree to which these resources are available and accessible to an individual impacts their success as an entrepreneur. And these resources come from two directions. One is from inside the family, and the other is outside from the community. And it's the degree and how these converge that really determine whether an individual is really supported in their entrepreneurship or not. And that influences their success. So in terms of family, ideally, it's great when there's parents who are involved in business and the kids either vicariously or by being involved in the business learn those skills, and the family develops their social capital, their network that then the kids as they grow up and are entrepreneurial can tap into, as well as developing that lineage, the generational wealth, that is so important for startups. And in terms of community, the ideal situation is where resources that support entrepreneurs and small businesses are available and accessible to all individuals, and that there's equity to underrepresented groups. And so what we're going to do is take a closer look at these forces, see some history with that, how it has impacted people, and some new directions that we can focus on. Helping us break it down is Nikki Porche, founder of Buy from a Black Woman, and Warren B. Ritter II, who is a financial advisor with wealth management strategies and also president of Santa Barbara Young Black Professionals, among many other roles. So Nikki and Warren, thank you so much for joining us. We're so fortunate to have you here and are so eager to learn from you.
Thank you for having me. I really am excited, and I hope to bring so much wealth of information to your young scholars. So thank you.
Yeah.
And I am also very humbled to be here. Just looking forward to great dialogue, great conversation, and however I can bring value, I'm here.
Excellent. Thank you. So first, tell us a bit about your organizations and what you're passionate about within them.
So Santa Barbara Young Black Professionals, the primary goal is honestly to foster positive relationships within Santa Barbara through different things such as professional development, social enrichment, and some community service events. So we make sure that when people are coming into town and new into town, they may not see many like-minded or physically same-looking people. And so we try to foster an idea of here's a group that you can become a part of that can at least jumpstart you into feeling more comfortable in Santa Barbara. So, when you're looking for a particular type of food, when you're looking to see, hey, where can I get my hair taken care of? When you're looking for, best music spot or wine spot, we can try and give a little bit more that way as far as a community. As far as our professional development, we do financial literacy series, which is really, really awesome. We have speakers come in that really do some educational pieces that sometimes we don't get when it comes time for you to be into the real world. And as far as our, our community service, we partner with a lot of existing organizations within Santa Barbara to try and make these collaborations a little more symbiotic and make sure people know what's going on within our community. Honestly, my passion is I'm originally from South Carolina, and so it's a very, very, familial and friendly place. And when I personally got to Santa Barbara, I didn't feel that. And so my passion comes from, I don't want anyone that comes from another place that comes to Santa Barbara to feel that feeling that I had. I don't want anyone to feel like I don't have friends. I don't like this place. I want to move because it's a sad thing because Santa Barbara is a beautiful place. It's a wonderful place with tons of interesting people. And I don't want that feeling of no one looks like me, no one's talking to me to be the reason why people leave this town. And so that's where my passion comes from, honestly.
That's so great. I'm so glad that you bring that to our community. That's an important thing. Thank you for that. Yeah. Okay, Nikki, you want to take this one?
Yes, so Buy From Black Women is a nonprofit organization. We are located in Atlanta, but I always say wherever you see a Black woman business owner, that's where Buy From Black Women is. We educate, inspire, and empower Black women business owners by spreading awareness of businesses where you can support them. I started Buy From a Black Woman. When I went to an event similar to what Warren was saying, I was the only Black woman there. And I was like, well, this is silly. I'm in Atlanta. How am I the only Black person at this event? I knew I had to do something. So I followed my passion. I used my skills and my resources, and boom, it was born. So I'm very passionate when it comes to economics in the Black community, making sure that, our communities, so long, especially in this country, have been taken away from us. We were forced into America and then stripped of the things. So that generational wealth that we see so much with other families, other communities, other networks, we are unfortunate that we don't have that in our areas. So making sure that we are properly educated, we have the tools and the resources to be successful, make sure that people know where they can support, where they can shop. And to Warren's point, when people are looking for those businesses from Black businesses, that we go ahead and provide that as a resource. So that's really what my passion is. And then also proper education, making sure that people are properly educated to know what to do with the resources once they get it. So it's not for naught, or they have no excuse to say, oh, well, I don't know where I can find that, or I don't know where I can support, or I didn't even know that exists in this community. And then just very passionate about buying from Black women. Like, I make sure like everything I buy, if I can help it, is from a Black woman. And if not, then Black business, and then if not, small businesses, if not, local businesses. So the whole chain I go to before I even go to the big box stores.
Let's talk about how you first recognized yourself as an entrepreneur, and what were the circumstances around you recognizing yourself as such?
For me, it's a twofold answer. So I think at a younger age, I saw what an entrepreneur was, but I didn't understand it until I actually got here to Santa Barbara. So my grandfather pastored one of the largest Black churches in our town for like over 40 years. And as like a public servant of doing that, I saw he was able to, be at home when we were, there. He was able to create his own schedule. He was out in the community doing stuff. He was opening up his own home to people that might have needed food. He was invited to all these different events that were super fancy. We got to put on like the eyes and all that good jazz. But I didn't realize just how important that was. When I got out here to Santa Barbara, I was able to meet tons of so many great people, and they've become my mentors. And a lot of them speak a lot about different types of wealth. So you have cultural wealth, your sense of self, your economic wealth, money, but you also have that community wealth piece. And that's a really, really big piece when it comes to entrepreneurship. So when I got out here to Santa Barbara, I was like, well, how can I put those things and really get that freedom. And I think that was really what it was for me when it came to entrepreneurship. I did not want to be confined to a box anymore. I did not want the work and the passion and my ethic to be, I had to stop at a certain limit because you can only do so much because you're an employee or your title only says this, your pay grade only goes up to here. The way my mind and how I feel like I am, I'm so passionate about what I do. I didn't want a limit on where I could put that passion anymore. And that was really pushed me to be like, okay, how can I find a situation that allows me to do this? And so knocking on many doors, talking to many people, I was able to finally meet Guy Walker, who is the president and the principal of our firm. He, really welcomed me in with open arms, very like-minded thinking, but he really pushed me. Yeah, if you want that freedom, it's accessible for you. If you want to do what you want to do, go do it. And hearing that was really that final little piece. But yeah, it was the freedom for me, wanting to make sure I wasn't operating inside any particular box that someone wanted to put me in.
Excellent. Thank you, Warren. And Nikki, how about you?
So I did not set out to be an entrepreneur, believe it or not. Like, this was not my idea. It was not something that I seek. It really was me listening to the instructions of the creator. Like, I had these gifts, I had these tools, I had these resources. I was working a job. I was very bored at that job. I was not being fulfilled. And I was like, ooh, what can I do? What am I supposed to be doing? Because I know this is not it. Like, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing in my life. It cannot be, because I'm bored out of my mind. So Buy From Blackboard really started off as a blog, and I was just doing it as a hobby, right? Just like something for me to do, because for those of you who ever worked a job or a job where you just did not feel like you were being utilized to your best service, you try to do other things to fulfill yourself. So it was a blog I started, and then the blog got traction. People were spreading awareness about the blogs, and people wanted to send me money. It was like, hey, well, here is this, since you're talking about Black businesses, let me give you something so you can continue to buy from Black women and blog about them. And I was like, wait a minute, like, the two aspects, the two key parts of having a business, having a nonprofit, is getting people to help you spread awareness and getting people to donate money to your cause. And I was like, wait a minute, those are the two things. And I didn't ask for it, and it's happening. Maybe this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I am a strong believer in listening, like being still and listening and making sure that the things that you are seeking, the things that you're set out to do, is the proper things to do, because that way you know you will never fail. So again, like, I didn't know I wanted to be one. Like Warren was saying, I had examples all around me. I knew many, many Black women business owners. The first one was my grandmother. Again, I did not know that was the word. I just knew she used her gifts and talents, and people paid her to do the work that she was doing. But I did not know, like, that was owning a business, and that what an entrepreneur was. So when I started meeting more, and in my 20s, there's so many Gen Zs who are watching. In my 20s, I was going through, and I didn't know what I wanted to be. So please, if you're listening, you're like, I'm not sure, it's okay. I mean, when I tell you, Warren and Julia, like, I got 6 different degrees in my 20s, but I just had no idea what it was I was going to be. But all of that stuff led up to where I am now. Like, it's all being used. Like, I got an art education degree, and then I even got my phlebotomy certificate, because I might need to draw blood just in case. Why? I don't know. I was going through something. I was in my 20s. So all that stuff helped me with Buy From Blackboard. So again, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know I wanted to be a business owner, but the business owner picked me.
There's this myth about entrepreneurship because of the images, kind of the stereotype of an entrepreneur is like, what, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, which, of course, they are important entrepreneurs and tremendous builders, right? And we could name several of them. There needs to be a reset here, because our students, a lot of times when I ask them, do you want to be an entrepreneur? They'll say no, but you say, do you want to have your own business someday? And they're like, yeah. And so there's this concept of entrepreneurship where it's like tech related. It's if you're building this big business, and that really needs a reset, because really entrepreneurship is about finding problems, coming up with innovative solutions, continuous improvement, bringing value to people. And really, who doesn't need to be entrepreneurial these days, right? I mean, maybe not everybody wants to start their own business, but there are different types of entrepreneurship, right? And definitely, if you look back through history, like we're talking about Black History Month here, if we go back into the history of Black entrepreneurship, this started back in the days of slavery and after the Civil War, with people needing to find a way to support their livelihood. And then they had the skills that they had developed, in, working the fields or working within the house that they used to, create the services and the products that were then sold, and so this is entrepreneurship. Were they trying to solve problems? Were they, leveraging opportunities and bringing value? Most definitely, and so I thank you for sharing those experiences that you've had and how you got into entrepreneurship so that we can begin to dispel some of those notions. It's like, let's have a world of entrepreneurship going on where everybody feels like they're a part of it,
And I always say, it's not for the faint of heart. Like, I know because of social media, we get this, rainbow colored blends type thing that we all can do it. And I'll be the first to say, everybody should not be a business owner. Like, I'm going to be real honest with you. It's not for everyone. And that's okay because we need consumers for the people who are business owners. So please do not feel like, you have to do it because everybody else is doing it. Like, be true to who you are and be honest with it. It's going to be a lot of work with it. Maybe you're supposed to help the business owner. Maybe you're supposed to be co-owner. So there's nothing wrong with all that stuff. So when we're dismantling the myth of entrepreneurship and business owners, just know there are so many roles where you might not be the business owner, but you are taking ownership of the business, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And with that awareness, they can be more valuable employees and team members. You've mentioned a few people in your lineage, you both have, who have impacted you as far as, them being business owners or entrepreneurial. Is there anything else you want to add?
So like I was saying, like in my 20s, I say I collect degrees, I collected experiences, and they all led to, this. Like, I worked in so many nonprofits, I worked in retail, I worked at a gas station, right? And all that stuff was leading me up to this, because when you talk about the gas station, customer service skills, being able to count money on the fast, being able to have that engaging conversation on the fly. That's something that, you do as an entrepreneur. Working in a nonprofit, now I have my own nonprofit. So founding and working in those different areas with that. Like, even going to school and figuring out that process of filling out forms, the customer service part. I keep on saying customer service because as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you have to have good customer service skills. So like, just realizing, like, how are you talking? How are you coming across? How are people interpreting that? And you might want to just, we always say, well, you cannot control how somebody else feels. But as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you have to be mindful of how you're making the client, the customer feel as well, because you want them to buy your stuff. So those skills come in. Your reading comprehension, just how you talk to other business owners, how other business owners interpret things, or even vent like that. So everything is a learning experience when it comes to a business that you can, if it's done properly and correctly, you can bring that into your business. And always carry like a notebook around with you always, because you never know when the ideas are going to come. It might just be like a conversation you just had in a one-off, and next thing you know, that's your next product or service, or that's your next content piece for social media. So you just never know. Like, it's all building up to something. And if you take that mindset that nothing is for naught and everything that you're doing is leading you to your purpose or helping you with your purpose, you will see so many things that you never saw before to help you live the life you want to live.
Well said. Super inspiring. How about you, Warren?
Yeah, I mean, that was, wow, I love that notebook piece, being able to have something you can get those ideas down. That is spectacular. If we're talking about just people, I talked about my grandfather, but I even speak about my father. So even with him, so he was like the first person that was a jack of all trades to me. And now that I'm a little bit older and hopefully a little bit more wiser, uh, I kind of see it as like that's the kind of person I've become here in Santa Barbara. So, like my father, he teaches engineering, so he was like the professor dude. That was kind of cool. He also collected muffins, so he was always out on the engine, like doing things. He has a little book, and he'd be trying to get this part in. He's also a musician, so plays the piano and the guitar, and it was just like, wow. I was like, oh, my dad's a really cool dude, a really cool guy. But as I began to become my own man, I realized like, wow, it's kind of like what I'm doing this town. I'm on this board. I'm president of this. I'm helping this person financially, and being able to put the words behind like, oh wow, like I've had these examples, but now I understand what that is. It really does give you a newfound appreciation for the things that you didn't know. I think for me, that proves, and it gives me more fuel. And the reason I share that is because a lot of people right now may be wondering, like, I think I want to do this thing, but I don't know how to do it. I would challenge you to really look around you and look at the people you know. Maybe someone is this thing that you don't really realize. I think about even a person who's a homemaker that stays home. They might be a stay-at-home parent. Even then, they have a full list of things they do every single day. They're making that home their place. They're putting so much in. So even something like that, where you don't really put it in that scope, that's someone who has an idea and they're bringing it forth. They're working towards it. So I just want to say, pull inspiration out of anything, because a lot of times being an entrepreneur, sometimes it gets tough, and sometimes you get discouraged. You're like, man, is this thing going to work out? But I challenge you to look and try and see that little bit of spark in everything you do.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. Let's look at history of Black entrepreneurs. And um, what, as you look back, do you see as the most important thing that we need to learn about Black entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I'll start this one. I am, once again, being a Southern person, you learn a lot about your history at a young age. And something I've learned that out here on the West Coast, a lot of people don't get that real history. And so when I think about entrepreneurs, and you kind of touched on it earlier, Julie, about those inventions that were created, and I would challenge to say, like, almost out of necessity. The slaves of that time were treated hard. Why wouldn't I want to create a cotton gin that'll help me steer these things? You know what I mean? Like, okay, I'm the one that has to log these ice pickles everywhere. Why don't I try to create this refrigerating thing that can keep them a little bit colder so I don't have to do it? And a lot of these ideas were then stolen. They were, they got sent to patent offices. People were taking their patents and pretending as if they were theirs. And so I think it's important when we talk about entrepreneurship and the original entrepreneurs that were creators, a lot of that was because, hey, here's an idea that can make our lives a little bit better. Here's an idea that we can implement that can make us all be in a better situation. And I think that's a misconception that people have a lot about, the Black community, that they don't work together. I challenge people all the time to think, like, literally the bulk of like our core inventions were literally social inventions. They weren't designed to help one person. They were designed to help us all. And I think that's where I get a lot of my passion. What I do in the community here is like, it's not just for me. It's really for us all. I'm doing this, here within Santa Barbara because I believe that by having a strong African American, Black person of color presence here, it makes the city better. You have more diverse ways of thinking. You have people in positions when you're in these board meetings, and you might be only familiar with A, B, and C. But if Laura over knows more about E, F, and G, that makes your whole organization stronger with that extra piece of information. And I think that people, predominantly white institutions, do not understand the value of having diversity in their spaces. And so, bring it back full circle, I just think that it's important when we're talking about entrepreneurship that we remember that the real reason a lot of the inventions were made and created they were out of necessity to get us out of a situation that we were forced into.
Yeah, that's great. Great perspective. Thank you. Nikki.
Yeah, just to piggyback on Warren said, just the education piece and just constantly educating, not just because it's, February or because it's Juneteenth, but always seeking the information to find out like how something started or where the origin of that came from is so important to know, because there's so many entrepreneurs, even when we spoke before, like some of our grandparents and our parents, they were entrepreneurs. We didn't know that's what they were. But even back then, like bartering was a form of owning a business, it was a form of entrepreneurship. So it might not even be documented in the traditional book way, but there's so much history in that, and knowing like where all origin from, where it first started, is so important. So you can, one, give credit where it's due, so like, okay, I'm not the first person who just saw this. This is what's happening, and let me make sure I'm acknowledging those who came before me, but also realizing that you can also add to it. So this might have been the prototype, but how are you going to enhance that and making sure you let people know, like, again, my education piece, like properly educating, like how this came to be, why it's needed, why it was necessary, and why you are deciding that you are going to add to the mix.
Let's go into wealth inequality. So one of the things that we hear is that entrepreneurship holds promise for addressing wealth disparity. Do you think that's true?
I think it's funny that me and Warren, when you brought up, we both like did like a silent chuckle because the wealth disparity in the Black community is just at such a high disadvantage. And a lot of that stems from racial inequality, racism, like barriers put in place to make sure that the African American and Black community is not, leading in anything, the burning down of all Black communities when segregation was at a promise, when they say, hey, we don't want you over here, go start your own. We started our own, and they burned it down. So just the whole catch up, other stuff like that. So even now you can see, like, even when it comes to funding, Black women were starting businesses at such an alarming rate. We're leading when it comes to getting degrees, but we still do not have the money. There's so many barriers put in place to make sure that we do not get that money. One of the parties that we're working here on Buy From a Black Woman is the Black Women Loan Fund. And I'm learning so much about what it takes to, loan out money to my community that needs it. And in that, I'm learning so much about all of the barriers that have been put in place in this country to prevent Black business owners, Black people, minority groups from getting money from banks, right? And I'm working in partnership with a lot of different organizations, and I'm sure one of the women who I'm working with, she's a white woman, and we've been on calls together where she'll say, hey, I'm here with Nikki with Buy From a Black Woman, and the resource that we reached out to, I can't help you. Oh, I don't know. Oh, I'm not sure. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Excuse. But then we'll be on a call, and she will not say, she's with Buy From a Black Woman. I'm on mute. And all of a sudden, and she's a white woman in these white spaces, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, what do you need? How can I help? What else can I do? Let me give you this phone number. Let me give you that phone number. So even when we're in this space of diversity and inclusion and cross-culture collaboration is such a buzzword, but it needs to be more than just a buzzword. So I guess the short answer to your question is no, because there's so much more work that needs to be done. And that goes back to properly educating and realizing why it was this way, why these practices were put in place, and what are you doing to ensure that it does not happen on your watch.
I mean, this is like my passion as a financial advisor. Like this is my stuff. This is what I do. And it really boils down to three things I like to focus on. So one, you spoke on the barriers. There were so many barriers set in place. Like Black people couldn't even open bank accounts, do investments or brokerages, couldn't even purchase insurance. And insurance is a huge estate planning and wealth transfer piece. And so they couldn't even like do stuff with mortgages. And we know how like property values have skyrocketed. So someone back in the 1800s paid $100 for whatever their piece of land was. Now today's time, that land is $3 million. I mean, like, and they never had to pay anything for that. That just got passed down. Yeah. Another piece is the education piece. And so it's just like, what do we know about our history? And then how are we educating others to know that, hey, these are the rules that are in place? Because a lot of this stuff, they've taken a lot of the overt language that's like, hey, no, this Negro cannot do this. Now it's that they're just not sharing the information. So now we have to educate and say, hey, here's this information. And then the last piece I focus on, I'm very passionate about, is law and policy. At the end of the day, there are a lot of policies that were created by racist and bigoted people that are still in place, that still prevent a lot of forward moving from people because there are these old archaic laws that are enforced and no one's challenging. And so those things for me are keeping this generational wealth piece, and it's such a gap. I mean, it's such a huge gap. And while we're starting the education and making some strides, it's going to take a lot more, because this whole pull yourself up by the bootstraps concept is it's impossible, because when you look at it, no one really pulls himself up. I mean, even the people you name, Steve Jobs, the Bill Gates, the whatever, they all had some kind of money. One of them got money from their grandparents to buy their first computer. Someone actually from some life insurance, they got something. Even Warren Buffett, he had funds that he got from his parents to get his very smart individuals, not taking that away from them, but they were not just these, oh, I'm just going to do this on my own. They all had some kind of assistance, some kind of capital that helped them get to where they are. So generational wealth, that whole gap and disparaging, we're trying to fix it, but like I said, it takes a lot, and it's going to take more than just us rallying as a community trying to say, hey, we're going to do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the harsh reality is that, Warren and I's generation will not see the results of that. Not even like my son's generation is not even going to see that. There's going to be so many more generations, if we're lucky, that will even see just an actual equal playing ground. And it's unfortunate, like that's the way it is. So having these type of conversations, these dialogues are always amazing, always great, but we have to make sure like we're providing action items, action steps after the dialogue, and making sure that people are actually taking part to do those things as well.
Yes, great. So we'll pick up on, some of those action items in a moment, but let's see if there's any question from our audience here. And there are a lot. Both of you mentioned that having your own business is a process. Therefore, I'm curious to know if your loved ones, such as family and friends, help you with your business itself, it sounds like, or no. And then, do you both have any entrepreneurs that you looked up to that motivated you to start your business?
I'll answer this real quick. For that question, this is why you have to be sure that what you're doing is right. My mother told me not to start a business. She said, you're going to fail. You're going to be homeless. Don't ask me for no money. I'm not paying your rent, blah, 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 blah. If you talk to her today, she will show you she has every t-shirt, every mug, every news clipping, every article. She's probably watching this podcast right now and is going to share it with her friends. So you have to really know, like in your hearts of hearts, that no matter who is against you, it could be your mother, your best friend, your sister, your lover, whomever, wherever. If you realize that's what your purpose is and that's what you're going to have to do, you're going to come against so many things, and you just have to keep going. Just keep going.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I have a totally different one. So my friends and family were super supportive. They were just like, hey, if that's what you want to go do it. And for me, that was a good thing, because I'm really family oriented, and I didn't want to just anyone, is this my right thing? And so I had plenty of family and friends who supported me and still do, just, based off the strength of that love. And then one particular person out here besides, Guy Walker, who is one of my mentors, I would say Mr. Teague, who was the Direct Relief Foundation, which is a huge organization out here. They do a lot of great work. But before I even knew who he was, we had like a little thing at a lunch, and I was telling him about the idea of my, what I was thinking of doing, becoming the president of an organization. And he was just like, if you have an idea, go do it. And it was just like some outside person just saying, like, go do what you do. It was just so empowering. So definitely always give a shout out to him for that one.
I love how we have different experiences, Warren, just so people can know, like, you do have it on both sides. You can have the encouraging ones, and then you can have ones where just like, but that goes into what we're talking about, just our generations. Like my mother, she grew up in a time where you were told to go to college, you get a job, get your pension, you retire, and that's all you do. You're not like stray away from that. So having a wild child daughter who's like, I'm going to start my own business and pay myself was so foreign to her. So you have to be so strong in your purpose and knowing that what you're doing is exactly what you're supposed to be doing, because you're going to come and get hurt. And like I said, like she's very supportive now, so in case she's watching, I don't want her to text me like, how dare you said that. I love you, Mom. And, you know, I had a great family friend system who was very supportive, but just knowing that I had to come against my mother, you know, like I value my mother and what she says, but I had to say, hey, you're wrong. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And as a business owner, those are the type of conversations you have to have. So now, like, having that conversation with my mother, when I go into a partner meeting, I can say, no, that's not right, because I already told my mom no. So you don't intimidate me because I was able to tell my mom no. So you can't tell me nothing, because if I can tell my mom no, I can walk into these meetings and make sure that my stuff is being respected.
Awesome. Thank you, too. Okay, so let's kind of go back to what we were talking about, action items. So as we look at what's going on these days, there are more programs emerging that are focused on funding for underrepresented groups, mentoring, post-startup support for businesses. So we're seeing some movement in that direction, but are we hitting the mark, or what's missing there? Let's discuss that.
I'll start off. So yes, we are missing the mark. I think that yes, you might have more groups, you know, grant writing, funding, more funds that have been allocated to underrepresented groups, but at the end of the day, this thing is an individual fight. You know what I mean? It takes the individuals being actually, for all intents and purposes, being intentional. And it's really about intentionality. It's about, you know, what are you giving? And a lot of times in the nonprofit world, talk about the 3 T's. So time, treasure, or your talent. What are you actually giving? Are you devoting your time to issues? Are you out there, you know, marching with people? Are you making the signs? Treasure, are you giving your money? You know, is it all you can do? Okay, can you give your funds to it? And your talent, you know, if you're a business owner and you see there's a deficiency, like, oh, I don't have a lot of people of color within my organization. Are you using your talent and your ability to hire those people and put them in places as an individual, not waiting for these, you know, the monetary stuff? Are you doing your part, being intentional as an individual? I think that's the that a lot of people aren't focusing on.
I would agree to a certain extent with Warren. We are missing the mark. We saw a lot of performative actions happen in June, and the people who are very, very loud in June, we don't know where they're at now. And that's not just individuals. That's a lot of corporations and businesses and organizations as well. So it's being intentional, but being constantly intentional as to why were you so excited to do this in June, and then in August you were worried about, like, oh, I can't barbecue and go to the beach for Memorial or Labor Day, whatever the weekend is that you want to go to. So the constant intentional actions is what really makes the difference, and not being performative. And it's so funny because, like, I had a conversation with a partner and they wanted to do something for June, and I'm like, I love you too much for you to do that to your business. You know, like, you're going to come across very performative, so let's not do that in June, because it's going to look like you're only doing that because of Juneteenth and everything that happened last year. So let's be mindful, let's be intentional. Let's set goals that are longer than just this 1 month or this one holiday did that. And that's where we're really missing the mark, because we're looking at, like, the little high ends or the buzzwords or the buzz moments that make an impact and look like you're really doing something, but you're not planning for longevity. You're not cultivating real, proper, intentional relationships. And that's where we're missing the mark at. What is your intention? Are you really doing a relationship with that? I always say, when I'm doing business with either, you know, Black or white business partners, I don't do one-night stands. So don't ask me to do something for one time with my business, because if you want to talk to me, we're going out on dates first. We want to get to know each other. I want to know about your family. I want you to know about my family. And then we can decide if we're going to work together and do something. So just being more intentional, getting to know what it is that you want to do. And it's crazy, we keep saying educate, but we have to educate ourselves. That's the only way you're going to have intentional action items and be purposeful with what you're doing with proper education.
So in closure here, I know that you've inspired our audience to take movement in their own life and to connect with other people in their community too. If they would like to learn more about what you're doing and to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Sure, yeah. You can always follow us on social under Buy From a Black Woman. That's on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We do have a YouTube. We call it buyfromablackwoman.tv. We have a lot of education programs on there. And you can always send us an email at info@buyfromablackwoman. But if you're a student and you want to connect directly, I'm Nikki at buyfromablackwoman.org. Please feel free to send me an email and know I'm here to help.
Perfect. And for our organization, it's Santa Barbara Young Black Professionals. So that's sbybt.com. All the contact information there. So the Instagrams, the Facebook, even my personal address, if you want to, email me directly from there, it's there. So sbybt.com. We look forward to hearing.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Warren. Thank you, Nikki, so much for being our guest. This has been such a great conversation, and we appreciate the opportunity to learn from you. And for our audience, I hope that this discussion supports your entrepreneurial journey and joining together as entrepreneurs, because we're definitely stronger and more innovative and more resourceful together. And so please join us next week at the same time. Until then, please like, share, subscribe, and have a great week, everybody, and keep bringing those great ideas to life. Take care.